people want you to listen to them.
Right.
They want their opinions to be heard, but they also want to know that you're not just in this for your gain.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Selfishly, the most gain you will get is if you take the time to really understand what makes that person tick.
You talked about seeing people, right? If you really need to see somebody, that means you really need to listen to them and to kind of put down like what you think is important or how important you think you are. But then also you talked about curiosity. Again, you got to lean into the conversation to really hear somebody in order to get those.
It's always, to me, a shame to see people spending over half their time in a job doing work that they're not that gifted at. And it would be better to, have that person spending 70 to 80% of their time on the things that they're uniquely gifted to do. Being vulnerable, not trying to be somebody that's seen, but making sure the people who really deserve to be seen, that you're good at focusing that spotlight towards them.
Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness. What if the most game-changing word in your life is a 3-letter word that a lot of people are scared to use? That word is yes. Meet Jim Alling, the former leader behind Starbucks, T-Mobile, and Tom's Shoes, who proved that saying yes can flip your work, your impact, and your sanity. In this episode, we're going to dive into Jim's mind and learn about the power of saying yes, what gritty gratitude is, and how serving others is your recipe to beat burnout, outperform the hustle, and how it changes the way you live and you lead. Jim Alling, thank you for being here today. Great to have you.
Hey, it's fantastic, Will. Thanks for having me on the show. I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, me too. So, and just everybody out there, hey, thank you for joining us. And Jim, I'm going to make this announcement. And you're welcome to join us too, Jim. We're going to be doing a Spartan race in Colorado Springs on May 31st of 2026. If you want to go to, I don't know if you're a Spartan man, I did my first race in October in Dallas or in Texas somewhere, and it was awesome. It was so fun. So we're gonna do another one.
Congrats. Can't do it this year. I blew out my quad tendon, so I'm in the recoup. But I've done a bunch of marathons and triathlons, so hit me up for another one after I've rehabbed.
Oh, hell yeah!
Anyway, thanks for the invite, but can't do it with crutches. I don't think.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But yeah, if you want to check out what is the details, anyone out there listening about the Spartan race, you can head to mentalkingmindfulness.com. And hey, before we dive into the rest of the show, please leave us a review, share, subscribe, maybe even take a screenshot and let people know that you're listening. Or if you're on Spotify, you can leave a comment. So please get connected. All right, so we're going to do this one breath grounding practice. Jim, join me if you like. Maybe Close your eyes if you like, and let's take a nice little exhale out your mouth. But really get empty of any breath. Good. And let's take a big, deep inhale. A little bit more. And let it go out nice and easy. All right, Jim.
Right on.
We're going to, right from the top here, you heard the intro, so you know what's coming up. So maybe in one sentence, if someone's listening, I'm sure there are people listening, Jim. So what would someone from listening to this show, what can they do differently after listening to this episode about the power of yes and the gratitude and grit and other things we talked about?
Yes opens up possibilities. Yes opens up learning, and no shuts it down. You think about, if you just close your eyes and say no, and just keep no. By the time you've done that for about 15 seconds, you're all tightened up. Yeah. Then you shift and you say yes, yes. It opens up the possibilities and the opportunities. And I learned that early on. And what I didn't recognize is there's a way to share that with people in your life, and importantly, people that you work with as well. So and I learned that at Starbucks, I will tell you, from just a tremendous mentor, a guy named Howard Bihar, who I know Howard's been on the show. Yeah. And he really taught me the enormous power of yes.
Yeah, and even just before we came on, I was telling you that I read his chapter. He was on the show. He was a fantastic guest. And the last a chapter in his book, I'm going to let John, and John is coming in there. He's a little late, stuck in traffic, y'all. That chapter is called Dare to Dream, and it's all about saying yes. And he goes right into, hey John, he goes right into what you just did. What, saying, we're jumping right in, John. John's saying yes over there. I can see him nodding his head already. I think you're on mute, by the way, John. You can't even hear him yet.
It's good to say. Yeah, he could be saying anything right now.
I know. It's kind of cursing himself for not getting the technology.
Yeah, no. How'd you like that traffic now technology? You've got right. Two of my greatest loves.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, even like what you're just saying, it's like if you say no like 15 times, you start to lock up, you start to freeze, like your mind starts to, just almost, protect itself in some ways, or just like it kind of shuts out the world. But even when you were just saying those yeses, like it just opens, there's something about that word that really like deeply touches us in some ways and really opens us up, but also opens us up to other possibilities to connect with other people and the world in some ways. So it's just so incredibly powerful. Well, it sounds like you learned a lot along the way, and one of the things that seems to really have helped you have such a wonderful career in life, and I really enjoy how you just, even the people at Nestle from years ago, you really stay connected to people, which I think is obviously very, very important. But what are some of the getting to what we're going to talk about or dive into is like what are some of the key ingredients to stay and kind of live in that state of yes. If you would.
Yeah, I always tried to do it personally, but as I incorporated it into my, career and work life, it really crystallized at Starbucks. And Starbucks had a philosophy that was just say yes. It wasn't a policy, because policy makes it sound like you're rule bound, but a philosophy was just say yes. You are the owner of your store. You are the owner of that Starbucks store, in whatever city you're in. Do what you think is right to make the people coming in to your stores feel good about Starbucks, feel good about their experience, feel better as they grab the door handle to leave than they did when they grabbed it to come in. Can you give them that little uplifting experience? And maybe it's just remembering their name. But maybe it's just giving them a free drink every now and then. People were encouraged to do that. If somebody asks for extra caramel, don't say, well, we can only put so much on. If somebody wants extra caramel, they want extra caramel. And you should take that caramel and just, forget the just regular recipe. Spill a little on the side of the cup and let them lick it off the side of the cup. Yeah. I mean, my God. And that's just saying yes. The caramel probably costs an extra 2 cents by overdosing.
Right.
But you know what the drink costs? But more importantly, there's a sense of being respected by the customer, but giving people the latitude and the freedom to do that, they feel respected. So for me, saying yes is the best way to unleash all of that knowledge that people have. I will. Well, go ahead, because I could go on forever on this.
Yeah,
but let me.
John, it sounds like your mic's working, John.
I'm back up. Okay. So first off,
hey,
Jim, great to see you. Gentlemen, thank you for your grace.
Oh, good, man.
Thank you for your patience and your flexibility.
Absolutely.
So I've clearly said yes to too much today, and hence my being late to the show.
Yeah.
But funny enough, I was coming from a therapy session. I went into a ketamine therapy session, Jim, and I went in with the intention of giving myself and others permission, and whatever that might be, permission to let go. And funny enough, when I was finished, the therapist gave me a deck of cards that I could pull any card from. And I pulled this one that said, you have permission to say no.
Oh,
incidentally. So the opposite of what we're talking about here, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And we talk about yes, no, the power of yes. just say yes. And I love everything that you just talked about with Starbucks. I've got 3 young kids, Jim, and every so often when I take them to school, I will have a craving for Starbucks, but I'll blame it on them. I'll be like, okay, guys, we're going to Starbucks, and I'll get them something. But in the drive-through, the people at the little window there, they know my kids by name, and they know exactly when I pull up and I order what I order. They're like, "Hey, John," they know it's me.
That's awesome. Yeah,
It's fantastic.
Awesome.
They do a really good job. So saying yes, it could be interpreted that you said no to Nestle because of the move. But what you were saying yes to was you were saying yes to your family. And I've got a similar experience. I retired from the Navy community in 2020, and back in 2018, we had or 2017, we had our first kid, and in late 2017, she had surgery to remove a massive tumor. And at that point, that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to retire as soon as I can. And I said yes to my family. That's what I prioritized.
Yep.
Okay, so that was a really long-winded hello to you, Jim. And
I love the background.
Yeah.
Right.
So what does doing the opposite, coming back to my therapist saying you have permission to say no, or giving me the card that says that, what does no do to us? What do you think it does to us?
Oh, I think there are times where no is the right answer when someone's asking you to do something unethical, illegal, something that's going to damage others. No is the right answer. And I would just say yes. The one thing, and I'll give you a couple examples as we go, but the one thing that we recognized was yes, just saying yes without any concept of what your organization stands for, what your mission is, what your culture is, what you've been brought in to do, without that training to understand, here's what the company is all about. Now use your best judgment to provide those uplifting experiences for people, which we know once they become raving fans, they're going to keep coming back. Our average visitation at a Starbucks was at that time 18 times a month. Wow. And yes, caffeine does play a role in that. So I'm not going to, say that. Yeah. But they were coming back to that one place all the time, and people knew their names. But what I wouldn't want to do is just tell people, no matter what, just say yes, but use your best judgment. But you do want to provide the training. You do want to provide the background so that they know how things have been handled, but also know that if they really want to do something that, they're not sure exactly how it's been handled in the past, we will do better allowing them, enabling them to use their best judgment. And if they make a bad call, the little bit of pain we will feel as an organization from that versus having people who are enabled to use their best judgment every day, those decisions will typically be absolutely right. And that group will far outweigh over here that little mistake that is made by somebody whose best judgment wasn't right on the spot. So that's where we said, I'd rather, if we're gonna roll the dice, let's roll the dice leaning towards yes versus considering no.
Yeah.
Raw, uncut, and unapologetic.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how we say it.
That's what we say. Yeah. We just say yes to everything, Jim. We just accept even the ambient noise.
Just say yes just say yes to editing. Just bring it all. We want it all.
Bring it all. Bring it all.
Full gritty experience.
Yeah. Well, you shared a really interesting, when we got introduced, and we're really thankful for Howard Bahar for the introduction to you. And here we are having this conversation. And in that that first initial email, you sent us actually a PDF that you entitled lessons learned, from all the companies that you'd help grow. And let me just get this right. John's blacking it out here. Okay. From all the companies that you helped grow from this document and all the lessons that you learned, you wrote, and I love this quote, you said, this is what you wrote. It says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. So, what do you mean by this? And Does this contribute to like this power of yes we're kind of talking about here?
It absolutely does.
Okay.
And I think I was a relatively young, I was managing a lot of people that were older than me at one point in time, in my next level of managers, and they had far more experience in retail than I did. So the last thing I wanted to do at that point in time was come in as if I had all the answers and start, trying to establish myself as the leader. I'm the guy in charge. And what I recognized was, people want you to listen to them.
Right.
They want their opinions to be heard, but they also want to know that you're not just in this for your gain, but you recognize that selfishly, the most gain you will get is if you take the time to really understand what makes that person tick, what brings out the best in their work. So every time I sat down with a new direct report, I asked them, how do you like to be communicated with? What's most effective for you? What are the environments that bring out your best work? When in the past do you feel like you've done your best work, and what was going on then? What was it around that time when you were doing your best work? And can we replicate that in this situation? So to me, if you take the time to do that, selfishly, you're helping yourself because you're getting a better read on, maybe how to position someone so that they're spending more of their time in their job on the things that they love to do.
Yeah.
And typically the things you love to do, you're really good at. It's always, to me, a shame to see people spending over half their time in a job doing work that they're not that gifted at. And it would be better to, have that person spending 70 to 80% of their time on the things that they're uniquely gifted to do. We were talking before we started the call about how you were able to hire a producer for the show.
Yeah.
And that took 10 hours of work a week away from you doing the producing duties, Will. And that was I hate to say it, but you don't look like you're real gifted at the producing duties.
Oh my God.
But,
boy, here we go. Once again, I get insulted on the show again. Thanks, Jim.
I hate to
Thanks,
say
Jim.
it, but it took us a while to get going this morning, So, but what, ultimately, now you're doing what you're most gifted at. You're getting a chance to interact with people. You're getting a chance to draw things out of people. So, so that, again, they didn't care what I knew from my days. And honestly, what I knew from my days at Nestle or running the license stores to people who'd grown up operating company stores. That's like, but that's not the same environment. You're in a different, they didn't want me to be preaching at them or telling them, here's what you got to improve, because we did need to improve. But if you come in and say, you guys need to get better at this, better at that, what you're basically saying is, you guys have stunk and I'm here to save the day. And that was not true. I didn't know nearly as much as anyone in the room, but I did have a hunger and a curiosity to learn from them. And I had a hunger and a curiosity, not just to learn from the executives, but to get out and go to the stores and talk to the store managers, the baristas, the customers, and ask them, what makes this store special? If you had a magic wand, what would you ask for if you needed to improve the store's performance? And that magic wand answer was typically yes. It's like, I love that idea. The things that I was most known for were ideas that came from people I talked to on the front line. I was known for, several things, but I didn't come up with the idea. I just breathed life on a broader scale to an idea that a couple of special store managers had. And then we blew that out to a broader group. So, but you can't do that if you have no credibility, or you're just saying, here, give me some more ideas. Well, you got to connect with people. It's that simple. And it can't be fake. You got to really want to. Fortunately, I loved the people in that company. They were such talented, just genuinely good people that for me, it was great. Same thing happened at T-Mobile. I took the same flight. I'm not a wireless guy, but there were some obvious things we could do. So anyway, I get a little fired up.
You bring up some really good points here, and John, I'll get you in a second. But I think because a lot of those little things you mentioned aren't necessarily like the word yes, but you kind of lean in with, you talked about seeing people. Right? If you really need to see somebody, that means you really need to listen to them and to kind of put down like what you think is important or how important you think you are. But then also you talked about curiosity. Again, you got to lean into the conversation to really hear somebody in order to get those, to listen to those ideas or the conversation in order to, be more effective as a leader. And that's all part of this conversation as well, or all part of like what yes can look like.
Absolutely. Well, I'll share with you Bihar, this Howard Bihar, tremendous mentor we've talked about. He's been on your show, but we went out to do store visits, and he was, at that time, he was my boss. And, I got a phone call coming in from, the Seattle Support Center, the headquarters of Starbucks. And I was going to grab it. He heard it ringing. He goes, "Hey, we did not fly out here to talk to people back in Seattle. We can do that when we get back in Seattle. We need to be present. That is why we flew out here to Birmingham, was to be able to talk to the people in Birmingham. They've got 4 stores now and they want to get to 6, and they're going to tell us how they're going to do that. And, and they've got ideas on why they can make their business better. It's a waste of time and it's disrespectful to pick up the phone and talk to some executive from Starbucks who I'm sure had something that needed to be dealt with, but it could be dealt with that night when I get back to the hotel."
Yeah.
So that was something after that, I turned my phone off on all my trips. Right. I did have a great admin who would know, hey, she would call the people I'm with and say, this one's like, house on fire type thing. But typically that phone stayed off, and I definitely never took calls right in front of the people I was talking to.
Yeah. Smart. Respect, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that also, that also shows trust in your team, saying, hey, look, you guys can figure it out, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's important as a leader, is to be able to step away from something and the organization still run. And I've got to do a quick shameless plug. So I've got a book that I'm working on writing right now called Dial in Your Leadership, DIAL. Okay. And it dial in just like you would dial in the scope of a rifle. And D stands for discipline, I is integrity. And here's why I'm even mentioning it, is the A is authenticity and the L is learning. And I love how you talked about, Will, you mentioned curiosity, Jim. You talked about learning always, learning from your mentors, learning from Howard, and being curious about how your people are, showing them that you care and that you have to be authentic. That's how you make a connection. Because people can pick up on if you're just being fake, if you're, self-deprecating, hey, look, I know this guy is not being real. But that learning and that curiosity piece, you talked about learning from your mentors. How do you feel about learning from new folks, your colleagues, brand new employees?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, I mean, everyone, if you take the time, you're willing to really probe in, everybody has something to offer. You may not get there immediately, but typically if you're really paying attention, if you're effectively listening, you will find things that are just these little gems that you can take and say, wow, do you mind if I share that? Do you mind if I use that? Sure. Do you, and and that's not just the frontline people. It's not just executives. It's people in your neighborhood. It's people you meet at your church. It's people if you're open to yes means everybody is a potential doorway you can walk through to a new yes and learn new things. And, I'm retired, but I continue to learn new things all the time. I love an opportunity like this, candidly, just sit down and talk with you guys. Yeah, exactly. And that's something I would regret it if I said no. you know, and if I'm not one who, spends much time dwelling on or caring about regrets, but there are things I know that I haven't done well, but I think I've been better than average at saying yes, but also better than average in really trying to see what's the yes this person brings. What is their special gift that they can share if we just fan that flame a little bit? And a lot of people, it's so obvious, you don't have to look too hard, but other people have to dig a little.
Right.
And that to me, I think if there were anything that I was proud of in my career, I was genuinely respectful, because I recognized if I took that time to really listen to the people throughout the organization, and not everybody had the same opinions, but if I really listened, I was going to learn things that could help me as someone who was leading a large group in that organization. And that's true throughout my career, wherever I was. So it was a gift that I learned from seeing other people, but also I found that I was a better leader when I was more vulnerable and willing to admit I didn't have the answers. As a really young executive, I had to prove that I belonged in the room. I had to have every answer and be the quickest one to jump in and say something. Or I probably was the guy who laughed too quickly at some, big boss's joke, like, I didn't even think, but over time, I recognized, being vulnerable, not trying to be, somebody that's seen, but making sure the people who really deserve to be seen, that you're good at focusing that spotlight towards them versus always trying to look, have a spotlight that's bouncing back on yourself.
Yeah. Amazing.
Hey everyone, we want to highlight a project we're very proud to support. Dr. Mark Gordon is releasing a new book series called Peptides for Health, focused on evidence-based practical applications of therapeutic peptides. The medical edition, Volume 1, launches December 22nd, 2025, followed by the consumer edition, Volume 1, on January 20th, 2026. That's more for people like me and Will. You can receive 25% off either edition using the promo code PFH25, with the medical edition discount running through January 31st and the consumer edition discount through February 20th. Proceeds help support the creation of the Children of Veterans program, and you can preview both books, and we've got everything linked in the show notes, so check it out. And thanks, Dr. Mark Gordon, for your sponsorship.
Why don't we get into, we talked quite a bit about service, obviously a lot about yes, but, we really didn't touch on gratitude enough. And this is like a real, key ingredient into just enjoying life more and just taking things as it comes.
Game changer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a game changer.
Yeah. So and go ahead. Yeah, talk about it. So tell me, please.
To me, I think my wife was the one who got me into practice. And she did it with our three boys as we were tucking them in at night. She'd say, tell me 3 things you're thankful for today. And the boys would think through it. I thought, the boys were thinking about it. I was like, hey, okay, well, I was thankful for that. And you start to go through it. I've done that ever since our kids were little. So I give my wife credit for starting that practice, but it carries on throughout your day. And you recognize that, taking the time to realize how blessed you are, how fortunate you are, it lifts your spirits. It's a yes expression. It's like, yes, I embrace this life I'm in, because I could pick 3 things every day, I'm sure, that were bummers that day,
right?
That were the no version of the yes. I'll give you a quick example. Will and I talked about it briefly at the start of the recording. I recently was injured on a hike, just one of those freak deals where I hit I was letting somebody go by, and I wasn't paying close enough attention because I had a beautiful view I was looking out at. We were up a couple thousand feet. It was on the Italian coast. It was just spectacular, but I was kind of a bonehead. I wasn't paying attention. My feet hit some loose dirt. My feet slipped out from under me. I started sliding. my left foot got caught on something like a root or something, and my left foot's caught behind me, rest of the body still sliding, and pop. And I mean pop. It was loud. And I was like, ooh, that's probably not good. And I went to lift my knee up, and it came up, and my quad stayed down, and I had completely ruptured my quad tendon. And I'm now with my wife and a couple of friends we met on the trail. So they were real super people, important in the story. And it's a well-traveled path. So there were other people coming through. But we're like, how are we going to I could not get down, put my arms around people. And we were up a couple thousand feet, and it wasn't that tricky, but it would have been really hard to carry me down, like on a stretcher or something. Yeah. So we were able to get a hold of Mountain Rescue, and they said, we're going to have to bring in a chopper.
Oh my God.
And so I'm there, and I've been there now with, keeping my legs straight, and I'm a little bit in shock, and I'm losing some color, and people are coming by on the trail. And, at the end of that day, what am I thankful for was I was so thankful for the kindness of complete strangers. I was thankful for the kindness of my wife and my friends who supported me, and ultimately the people who came down on cables from the helicopter. They cabled down because they couldn't land. It was just, there was no place to land. So they had to cable down.
Oh my God. Then
they carried me to where they could evac me on a stretcher, all bundled up.
Oh my God.
And at that point I was not scared. I was just grateful because I knew they could have never carried me down. And as I go up, and they take me to an Italian hospital down the coast, and and it made for quite a journey back from Italy to Los Angeles. But as I thought about it, it's like I was so grateful that there was there was a woman who no one spoke English. I speak no Italian, but there was one of the nurses spoke some Spanish, so I was able to have her help with translation. Then I was also very grateful that I remembered my battery pack for my phone, because when she took off, I started using Google Translate, and I was so grateful for Google Translate. Great product. I'm not here plugging, I don't work for Google or anything, but man, that was a great thing. So it's like it just, and since then, I have recognized, because I've had to change, my speed. I can still do things. I still do like upper body workouts, and I can go to the pool now. I'm like 9 weeks in after my surgery, but I have been dependent on people, and I'm used to being the person. I used to love doing nice things for other people. That was fulfilling. It gave me a high. I'd never been the person who was the receiver of, or not, I shouldn't say that. I've never been so dependent that I needed the kindness of others. But as I sat on that trail, the other thing I was thankful for, you wouldn't believe the number of people who came by. Like, there was this German guy, and he said, you look like you're getting cold. I have a windbreaker for you. And he pulls it out of his backpack, because we'd been sitting there for quite a while. I said, okay, give me your address or something. I said, you don't need to do that. And I was like, oh, no, I don't need help. But I really did need help. And he said, no, I want you to keep it. I've had it a long time. It's old. This will help me get a new one. He says, take the windbreaker. And then somebody else gave me some water. Some guy came by with some, I don't know what the kind of aspirin it was, but it definitely helped. And gave me that. And, and that's the kindness of strangers. But even, since then, people, as I've been on crutches and whatnot, people have been, so great to just, open, and friends have reached out. They've come to visit me and stuff. So I'm moving at a different pace than I used to move at, but I'm also deliberately paying attention to how good it feels to have someone help me, to be open, and actually being open to being helped can be very fulfilling. But, I always wanted to have the control over, I always thought that's what it's all about, is do random acts of kindness for others and that type of thing. Right. Having somebody do it for you, it actually feels really good. And I guess I just didn't appreciate it enough before. And I definitely have an appreciation for the health I had up until now. I've been very lucky. It's my first surgery ever. I'm almost 65.
Yeah.
And that was my first time going through a surgery. So I've been very fortunate. So I'm not feeling sorry for myself. So it's, again, I guess this could have been a no experience for me. It's been a good growth experience. There's a lot of yes in this. But I am looking forward to getting back on my bike and, not having to limp around and stuff. So anyway, so thanks for indulging me. I wanted to share that just because it's such a recent experience, as far as showing gratitude and feeling the gratitude and how it makes you feel better instead of feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is just a little that if you because this is a mindfulness, podcast. So what's that practice look like? It's something you do at the end of the day, just like, just so people.
For me, end of day.
Okay, end of the day. Just so it was just
for
three
me,
things.
End of day. It's kind of tied in. I believe in the power of prayer.
Okay,
and to me, prayer, some people call it meditation, whatever. It's just it's that open sense of, some people do it first thing in the morning. I prefer to have that time at the end of the day as I reflect back and as I think about the day ahead and the things that I wish I'd have done better. Because there are things every day where I say, that wasn't, I wasn't at my best in that. But always, spend that time on, these are the things that I'm grateful for today. These are the things that I feel really blessed for today. So I do it every night. I don't go to sleep without that. And it actually calms me as I go, you know what I mean? I slow down, do some reading. And from there it's, on to the next day.
Yeah.
I'm going to start implementing that with my kids.
Yeah.
I journal about it in the evening as well, 3 or 4 or 5 things that I'm appreciative for. And it can't be something like, I'm appreciative for the roof over my head. Because yes, that you say that enough times, it becomes trite, but I am. But, I'm also, again, coming back to being thankful for your guys' grace. I'm grateful for that. And that's probably something that I'll write about today. I'm grateful for you guys' patience with my technology. Not only am I late, but my technology keeps messing up. But,
I picked on Will, but you haven't gotten the gold star either.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I am F- right now. But that is a great way to kind of teach your kids the power of gratitude. I've had to sit them down when they're complaining about their iPad not being charged. I'm like, the fact that you have an iPad,
right,
you're an 8-year-old and you have an iPad. Chill out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they've got to start learning some gratitude, and I think I'm going to implement that practice. But let's come back to yes. What about a time that yes has backfired for you, and what guardrails do you use now to keep that from happening?
I'm gonna kind of tell you the good side of the story, and then when yes went to an extreme. So we'll do it that way, and it goes all the way back to another Starbucks when I was relatively early at Starbucks running all of the company operated stores. So it's a big group that, you got over 100,000 people working in that group. And I was heading that up, and I went down to work with the leader of the market, who was a great guy named Mark Lindstrom. And I said, I want to go to these stores that have outlier performance to the good. They were running 15, 20% comparable store sales comparisons versus the company average was like 3 or 4. And I was like, I want to see what makes these stores so special. He says, what makes them so special is the people in the stores, and you need to talk to them and ask them how they do it. And went into the first store that it was just this Kelly Kyra's fantastic store manager. And I said, Kelly, how do you do this? What's your secret? And she almost whispered to me like there was somebody bugging her. And she goes, well, I kind of cheat on the labor schedule. I said, what do you mean you cheat on the labor schedule? She said, well, the automated labor scheduling system says I should only have 5 people on during the peak rush hour, she says, but our line's backed up so much that I realized I need more people. And if I have more people coming in and they're being paid from at that point in time, this is back, 2000, they're being paid, 10, $15 an hour fully loaded, but they were helping generate about another $100 an hour in revenues, which, you're flowing through good revenue percentage off of that.
Yeah.
So she said, so I added 2 people. It said, I need, the 5, I took it to 7. After 3 weeks, because my business picked up, the automated schedule said I need 7. So I added 3 more and went to 10.
Oh,
and
wow.
she said, after 3 more weeks, the schedule said I needed 12, or it said I needed 10. So I went to 12. And I said, wow. And I said, let's look at your, they have store P&Ls. We look at the profit. It was one of the most profitable stores. And it was one of the happiest stores because people knew, even though there was a long line, they'd get their drink within 3 minutes. And they also knew there was a lot of people running around, checking on them, wiping down the tables, doing also it was there was nothing else special about this store except for the people and the amount of hours and people they had in there that they staffed themselves to grow the business. Went to 4 or 5 other stores. They all did the same thing. Jim, I got to admit, I kind of cheat on the labor system.
Wow.
I added people. Now, what I came to find out was Mark was the guy who encouraged them, go ahead and cheat. Let's see what happens. So I came back and I said, this is magical. This is what needs to be done. And I said, we've got to add these hours in.
Uh-oh.
They can do it. So we did it. We started out in just certain areas and the business grew dramatic, like incredibly. So that's the good part of the story. There was a Harvard business case study that's still reviewed, written about it, myself and the other people involved at that time. And so I was like, now I was the full disciple of add the labor hours. Right. But here's the thing, and I instituted it across the whole country. I said, we've got to do this. We're going, and for someone who grows up in retail like Howard Behar, he said, I thought you were crazy because that's your biggest controllable cost. That's your biggest thing you can squeeze. And he said, what you showed me is it's also the biggest growth generator. It's the biggest yes opportunity that you can have is just, putting the people in. However, you have to schedule those people and you have to demonstrate that you can grow the business. If Kelly hadn't grown the business, she would have pulled the hours back.
Right.
But she knew with her people and how they were trained that those hours added would grow the business. When I said, take the handcuffs off, let everybody add however many hours they want, there were people adding hours that weren't as good as Kelly, who said, we're going to use that for extra break time. We're going to use that for, and maybe not customer serving time, or they weren't able to demonstrate that having more people on the floor grew their business. After 4 weeks, they stayed with it and they kept doing it. And it was a very expensive lesson to learn. And to me, it was like, what I recognized was some people, and at the time I had a son who was turning 16 and I shared this in meetings with everyone. I said, my son, Zach, he felt like he could drive when he was 15 and a half. Before he got his permit, he just wanted me to toss him the keys and let him take off. And I realized, hey, the first time I went out with him, I don't know if you guys have anybody you've ever driven with a first-time driver where they're so far over and you're in the passenger seat and you see the mirrors coming by you. It's like, oh God, you got to get more towards the middle. You got to, so it's like he was not prepared to drive at 15 and a half, but after going through the classes, after having enough permit driving, when we gave him the keys at 16, there was still a higher than average chance something might go wrong the first times you're going out on your own. But I felt like at that point we could trust him. He was ready to go. Now, at the same time, I had a 12-year-old who gladly would have grabbed the keys and driven around with no training, anything. But throwing the keys to that 12-year-old, it was almost like guaranteeing a crash. So it was the same thing. If the managers were a 12-year-old, they just didn't have the sophistication to recognize, here's what's going to be best for my business. So they schedule that time for extra breaks or whatever. then that turns into a car wreck. But if you're giving it to somebody who's been properly trained, understands their business, understands the people they're going to be bringing in, they can turn it into a big win for you. So that's how we didn't just completely slam on the brakes and stop doing that. We recognized you did have to earn that opportunity. You had to demonstrate that as you added those dollars and those hours and those people for more servers, that you could use those more servers in a way that grew your business and created a better atmosphere that more people wanted to come to every day. So that's where yes to an extreme, and unchecked yes can actually have unintended consequences. So I learned that. I took it as too far and broke it, but then realized, okay, there's a way to do it. But what I never wanted to be guilty of was managing to the lowest common denominator only, and saying, now we got to put rules in place so that nobody can break the automated labor scheduler. Nobody can get out of control. If you dumb down a job to the lowest common denominator, you are going to encourage people to check their brain out and just go through the motions.
Sure.
So you've got to put in place your respect for the people, your trust of their judgment, but you owe them the training, you owe them the association with your mission to the point where they understand what's going to be best, not just for their, the business, but also, most importantly, what's best for their business. It's what's going to be best for their customers. And that'll bring those customers back 18 times a month.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. I have that personal experience here. The Starbucks that I take my kids to is not the closest one. It's actually the one that it's a better service. And the other day I was like in a hurry, and I took my kid I took my son and my son only to the closest one. He's like, "Oh, there's another Starbucks?" I was like, "Yeah, buddy, there's about 50,000 other ones."
Oh my God. Okay. So when I used to travel, I tell people, what I did. I talked on planes, something you learn from people.
Connecting.
I didn't want to be obnoxious, but if somebody seemed open, and if I told them I was at Starbucks, invariably they would say, "Oh my God, my Starbucks is the best Starbucks out there." And I talked about this, at our big conferences. I said, you've got a great store if it becomes my Starbucks, where the customer, you move the furniture around, like store manager tries to reset the furniture, the customers will come back and move it back to the way they like it. They will say, "Hey, this is my store," and they know the people. And the funny thing was, you would have certain people saying, "This is my Starbucks," and they drive by one. Then you go into another store that they had driven by, and another person drives by the store they love to get to the store they drove past and said, "This is the best Starbucks. This is my Starbucks." They had their own personalities, but it was just fascinating to me when the store managers took full ownership of their stores. The customers almost took full ownership of the store. It became their Starbucks, and that's great. And somebody recognizing, people love the ring of their name, the sound of their name ringing out. They're like, "Wow, you know me, and I don't want to get into any statements on the existing situation at Starbucks, but authentic, genuine connection that doesn't feel rote is the best. And I think writing on the cups is such a great gesture when it's somebody when it's something, or just even not somebody but you just want to give somebody. But if it becomes a rule or a something that you have to do for everybody, it loses that genuine and authentic connection. So I don't know if they've dialed that back but I still get like
one that I
a little, it's got a little smile. And but they're doing it ahead of time anyway. You don't, you're anyway.
No, let's stay right in there, Jim, because like we have a question here. It's like, from, as far as like, getting too stuck into rules and stuff like that, we talked, a little bit about servant leadership and how important that is. Yep. So what from your experience, what signals tell you that a culture is like kind of faking service instead of living it authentically?
Um, if you, I mean, first of all, you can see it you can feel it in the people.
There you
I
go.
think.
Yeah.
If it feels like an assignment, it doesn't feel like an authentic gesture.
Mm.
And the worst thing you can hear is when somebody starts saying they or the policy. You know, you do not work for policies. You do not work for they. You know, I'd say, who told you to do, you know, when I first got to T-Mobile, we had a lot of people saying, well, they said this is the way we have to do it. I said, who is they? Give me they's name. You know, I don't see any guy in our organization chart named they. So who is they? And let's find out, why did they say that? And because you clearly don't understand why. You just say, that's the policy and that's the way it's got to be. So let's understand why that is in place, and let's decide whether or not we need to change that. And, you know, if people feel, again, if the job gets managed down to that lowest common denominator, it's like everybody's got to leave a message, because that's what, some days you're going to be a little less peppy than others. Some days, you know, and you have to recognize that's part of the human condition.
Right.
That's okay. You know, but what I recognized was, if we have 1% of the people going into work on a day when they're just off, something happened at their family, maybe they're sick, maybe they're not feeling well, that's 1,000 different people walking into work a shift at one of our stores who's not completely on. And that's where the other partners, the other employees they're working with, they typically, and I can't speak for it today, but because I'm just not there, but they often were lifted up by the people around them and say, hey, you look like you're off today. You know, let's, you know, maybe take you off the register or off the bar, or do a, you know, a lobby sweep instead, so you're not having to deal with this. But it's not always going to be in a situation where it's going to be perfect. It is when it's at its best, it's genuine, and that connection is genuine, and that connection is respectful. I don't like the saying the customer is always right, or the customer is king, because the customer's not always right. Sometimes they'll tell you they gave you a 20. Back in the days I worked, we used cash. You know, they gave you a 20 when they really did give you a 10. But that customer doesn't want you to prove to them that they got a 10. You know, and get in an argument about, they're convinced it's 20, you're convinced it was a 10. What that customer at that point was wrong. So the customer is not always right, but the customer is always a human being, and they want to feel respected. They want to feel heard. And that's where Just Say Yes would tell you, that philosophy, not that policy, that philosophy would tell you, you know what, I'm going to make this right. You know, I was mistaken. Here's your change for a 20, even though it wasn't a 20. And that'll cost you a little money, but that person might just dig that 20 out later and go, oh, I did give her a 10, or I did give him a 10. Oh, wow. So anyway, I would just say the customer is going to have bad days too. And they're going to, sometimes they want to take it out on somebody. But that customer really does want an uplift. They want to feel better after having visited the store than they did before they came into the store. And you can do that. You can do that in a drive-through. What you said, I'm going to share one story, because your thing about the drive-through hit something for me. And again, this was in Southern California, but this is one. So a customer ordered a white chocolate mocha, and through the drive-through, came in, had their money ready, and when they got there, they had prepared just a regular mocha. So they said, "Oh God, we screwed up. I'm sorry. You know, let me remake that for you." You know, remakes it. They get their white chocolate mocha, and they go to give the money. They said, "No, that's on us. No worries." And the customer said, "You know what? That's awesome. Take the money and buy the drink for the person behind me." And they did that.
For me.
And then the next person did that. It went through, like, at that point, it was the first time I'd ever heard of it. It was like 8 consecutive cars. And for me, that did that for each other. My first thought was, that is so cool. My second thought was, what's the deal with the ninth car? Why did they stiff the guy?
Yeah.
Why didn't they buy? And actually, I talked to the manager who did. They said, you know what? It was a teenage, kid who was on the way to school, and there was a family behind them, and the kid just panicked. Was like, I can't,
no way.
I can't do it. I can't afford that car behind me. So anyway, but yeah, I share that because if you're just saying yes, in what you're doing, you can create other yeses, and that yes can live along. So I'm glad you've experienced that before. But that can't be something that's rote, or can't be something that's forced. It's got to be just a genuine,
it's organic, natural.
That's made.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, all I can think about is remember the show or the movie Office Space?
Oh yeah.
When, oh my gosh, Rachel from Friends. What's her name?
Jennifer Aniston.
I can't remember her name.
Jennifer Aniston,
I knew it was Jennifer. Yes, I was going to say Jennifer Lawrence, but I was like, that's not right.
Good job.
Okay, so
you remember the character. That's tougher to remember than the actual actress. So good job. Good job, John.
I was going to say John had a crush. I could see him. I can see it in his face.
Rachel Friends. Okay, so I thought you said Rachel.
Oh no. So Rachel in Friends, but she's playing the waitress. Yeah. And she has like one piece of flair, and the one guy's like, no, the minimum number of pieces of flair is 17. That's the policy. And I was like, that's an exact example.
That's exactly real authentic.
Right. And my like where it comes into play in my life right now is, sometimes I'll forget to do the dishes, and my wife's like, hey, babe, you forgot to do the dishes. I was like, well, okay, well, I will add it to my to-do list. Like, I have my to-do list. I'll add it. And she's like, no. I don't want you to add it. I want you to want to do the dishes.
I like that. I
want you to want to. And that's probably what you mean with the policy versus want. Hey, I'm not going to tell you that you need to write on the cups, but I want you to want to.
It's exactly right. Oh man.
Well, Jim, I don't know how much time you have.
Do you have? I have a couple minutes. I apologize.
Okay.
I've actually got to go. I'm still going through physical therapy for the knee that we talked about.
Take care of yourself.
Oh, those guys, they can really create, because now I've got to get some flex in it. It's like going to a medieval torture chamber with the devices they've got.
Say yes, Jim.
I'm saying yes. I am super grateful.
Yes, I am bending
Annabelle,
my knee.
I'm very grateful to Annabelle, my PT, but boy, she's got a lot of strength when she's cranking that knee.
Yeah.
So I think they've secretly got an evil bone in their body, and they're like,
she's wonderful, and she has gotten a lot of flexibility back already.
Good. Congrats.
Anyway.
Well, then we definitely don't want to take much more time. So how would you like to wrap it up, Jim? Any last words?
Well, first of all, can you hear the serenade from the last garbage truck coming through? I think that's just
beautiful.
Just say yes. I think he's right at my house.
It's been the background music for us.
It's like, how many times are these guys coming by?
Right.
No, I just want to thank you guys for a great conversation. This has been a lot of fun. You're going to be in my recap tonight of my 3 things I'm very grateful
fantastic.
for. So just saying yes. I didn't really put it to like a what I thought was a crystallized practice until I got to Starbucks. But I recognized through my whole life, it's just opened so many opportunities to me. Some of them scary.
Yeah.
Sometimes that opportunity turns into a mistake, but that turns into a learning experience, which later turns into something really good. So this time has been wonderful. I really appreciate you guys and appreciate your inviting me to come and spend some time with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Jim.
Absolutely.
I thought, I'm just going to give a little shout out to the person, the man who introduced us, Howard Bahar. And I have a little quote here from his book. I thought it'd be a great way just to honor such a great man, And he says, those who think no are missing something. Yes is the most powerful word. Yes is freeing and inspiring. It means permission. It means possibility. It means you give yourself and others the chance to dream. Saying yes makes you feel good. So,
amen.
yeah.
I love it. That's my man.
Yeah, I
that's
know.
my man, and that's a great. That is a great wrap, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Jim.
Take care.
All right,
All right.
care.
Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye.
You.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.